Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag. From the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, John, the question might be, with no sports, what do we have to talk about? And so it's actually a perfect opportunity to catch people up on things that are what I would say are tangential to sports, because it's related to the schools in the area. And to that end, we have Barren County School Superintendent Bo Matthews in at the moment, and then Glasgow Athletic Director Craig Cassady will join us in about 30 minutes. And really what we want to do to start off with is to do the best we can to inform people on the decision-making process, both as it relates to school closures, the postponement of spring sports at the moment, the cancellation of the NCAA tournament. Bo, they can't really speak to that itself, but the decision-making process for all this, I think, is related to each other. Wouldn't you say that's the case, Bo?
No doubt, James, and thanks for having me on today. Good to be with you and John.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you agreeing to join us. I figured, I felt confident if I brought anyone in here who could probably talk about this in an informed way, it would be you. I mean, you manage a large school district, so at all times you're having to make decisions, and some of them are popular and some of them are not, and you've had to deal with this kind of thing. So I didn't figure it'd be any skin off your teeth coming here and talk to us about this kind of stuff.
Well, appreciate that. You're kind with those remarks, but we'll give it a good shot here.
So I want to step back to Wednesday of last week. That would be Wednesday, March 13th, I believe, was that date. That day they played the first round of the girls' state tournament, and at that point in time on Wednesday, everything was still on. You know, there was some concern about the possibility of, and some discussion had already taken place about limiting audience attendance at the state tournaments and that kind of thing, but they felt like they could still play the tournament. People balked at that, but, you know, that was the case. 24 hours later, if you say 3 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon, by 3 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, the whole world had basically changed in terms of how they were going to try to deal with the spread of COVID-19, which a lot of people call the novel coronavirus. Novel, I guess, would be the word. And I felt like part of what had to have happened is that there had to be information and discussions between administrators, superintendents such as yourself, the Kentucky Department of Health, the governor, that was going on, and that changed your minds about how radically we needed to respond to the spread of this virus. Is that accurate?
It is, James. I can just go back in time and briefly give you some initial thoughts.
Yeah.
There had already been some conversation around through superintendent chat groups, which we're a fairly close organization in the state, and thought, well, we understand that we've had some influenza issues. There's something new that we might have to deal with. What were the similarities and differences? It really didn't go beyond that, because we've dealt with school closures for illness before.
Right.
Typically, when we go under that 90% attendance rate, it actually costs the school district to operate in the red to have school, and we typically choose to close and have school on a better day.
Mm-hmm. So whenever you guys, between that Wednesday and that Thursday, can you kind of fill us in on some of the information that struck you personally, where you realized we're going to have to make some drastic decisions about the school closings, and then by extension of that, really spring sports and that kind of thing, beyond just the state tournaments and all?
Absolutely. You know, the dominoes began to fall so rapidly. It was unusual, but I got a text message from our Commissioner of Education, Brown, and it said that the governor would like to speak with all superintendents via webinar, and he gave a day and time, and we thought that's pretty unusual. Of course, we have a new governor, and we're not used to that kind of attention, and
right.
So we tuned in at the said time, and
now, was this on Wednesday or Thursday?
Had it been Wednesday.
Okay.
And then we learned through that conversation with health officials at the state level, Commissioner Brown, and then also Governor Beshear, that we wanted to have some thoughts around a short-term closure announcement within 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, what we typically are familiar with, we close school due to flu. We typically try to include a weekend, and gives us time to clean the building and get away from each other, and we seem to be better. But the next time that we were asked to tune in to the governor's webinar, and I think that was on Friday, he then asked us to go ahead and close for 2 weeks, initiate those plans.
That closing came down on Friday morning, basically, for the schools, right?
That's correct. So, it's on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Thursday morning, and this is how rapidly things transpired.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that is because our students were already in the calendar not to be present on Friday, and we really didn't have time to prepare for our online learning, I Learn at Home, to get all that information ready for a 2-week closure. So our staff jumped in, and they worked late into the night and hit the ground running on Thursday morning in order to get materials in the hands of students to go home and give them a heads up that, we're looking at somewhere around a 10-day closing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the way it works out is you wind up with 2 weeks, and then there was spring break already set to come after those 2 weeks. So you wind up with a 2-week closure and spring break at the end of that. Is that right?
I'm sure that was part of the thought process, but with our school calendar, like many other districts in the state, we would have actually had an additional week there that we would be in session before we got to our spring break.
Okay, I got you.
So a lot of districts to in the northern part of the state, that would have worked perfectly. I don't think that was all fleshed out, with the speed in which information was going out. So that's why the 2 weeks was requested by the governor, which we fully supported.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine defending why we'd be going to school when the governor's declared a statewide emergency and said we shouldn't be in school. So the answer was absolutely, we will do that. And the reason that Barren County Schools did not go for a 3-week announcement or a 4-week announcement, including spring break, was this is just an unknown. No one knows where the end or the bottom is for this new virus, and optimistically, we were hoping at the end of a week and a half, maybe things are better. Maybe we can get back in school, and who knows, we might even be able to reinstate some things that have already been called off. But unfortunately, James and John, it doesn't look like that's the case.
Right. Was there, in those conversations with the governor's office and with the governor, was there some specific data that he provided in terms of like infectious rates or things of that nature that you saw, you and your fellow superintendents, and it was like a moment where you said, okay, this is more significant than I probably actually realized?
If you talk to the average citizen on the street, they would have told you a week and a half ago this was all just being inflamed by the media.
Mm-hmm.
The media was getting bashed about sensationalizing this outbreak and what had happened in China, and certainly Italy was on people's minds. And then it became cruise ships, and then it was airports and airplanes. And the thing that really kind of turned the lights on for me personally was when a graphic was put up showing what had happened in Europe, China, Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the spread of the virus overwhelmed the infrastructure of the healthcare system.
Right.
And when you look at the United States, we were seeing a very steep and rapidly increasing bell curve that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at that dotted line, and that represents what our healthcare industry can handle,
mm-hmm.
take care of sick people, we were going to eclipse this rapidly within days, not months, not weeks,
right.
days, if we didn't do something drastic. And the governor basically implored all area or all state school superintendents, close 10 days, and let's see where we are, and I totally supported that.
Yeah. That graphic that you mentioned, I believe I saw that on Friday morning, and the data through Wednesday was we were on the same pace as Italy in terms of infection rate. And the other thing about that, which a lot of people probably didn't quite realize at the time and maybe don't even realize now, is the testing for the virus itself was running behind, and I think still is in a lot of ways running behind. So we knew there was going to be an escalation. Probably you knew there was going to be an escalation as soon as you saw that chart, because you were probably aware of some of the testing limitations we were already facing. And I imagine for you and all the people who had to make decisions, the KHSAA when it came to the state tournament, the NCAA when it came to the tournaments there, once they all saw that, sort of like you, that light bulb probably went off, and they realized, these medical professionals who have been telling us it's not if, it's when, we're spot on.
James, there was a lens of political viewpoints that we were trying to filter. Is this the way this group feels about this particular situation and how it's being handled? And on the national level, is there some partisanship to the way that we're moving forward? Once I saw the scientific data, and I heard from the state's leading health officials, it wasn't a matter of spring sports anymore. It wasn't a matter of economics. It was really about life and death, and life as we know it. And we're living in historic times, and sadly, the science says that we've not reached the full impact of this virus yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say, that's the one group that has really, I think, shown out the most, that I've been most impressed with, is the medical people.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that I've witnessed and watched and so forth. They've been very good, very professional, and very calming. I think oftentimes, in a state of panic, which fear, I think panic and fear is fair to say with a lot of people. Medical people have been pretty good about it, to be perfectly honest with you. I've been impressed with them.
Yeah, my wife's a nurse, and there are things around the house, like doing the dishes, that I usually do, because she doesn't like stuff on the plates or whatever, right? I don't like the dishwasher, because I just like the idea of washing the dishes. But now she can go to the hospital, and she's an emergency room nurse. She can go to the hospital and deal with all kinds of situations that would make me want to just jump out the window, and be absolutely calm about it. And I don't know how she does it, to be honest with you. But you're right. People in the medical field, they have that training, and what they've seen allows them to deal with these circumstances differently than you and I or Bo on the street, right? And if we had to deal with these things. Bo, a couple of more things before you probably need to go back to work and probably do something other than hang out with us.
We're working on tomorrow right now.
That's right. So you guys, what are you mentioned the iLearn that the school district has, and can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know the school district's had it in place for a few years now, especially for snow days, flu, that kind of thing. But I think still sometimes people don't quite know what this is.
It's a tool in the box. What it allows us to do is continue to count education, learning time as a day equivalent of school. It really originated as an option for far eastern Kentucky that just gets hammered with snow days. So we continue to lobby our legislature over a course of a few years and said, look, we're not asking you for 50 days or 40 days or 30 days. Just give us 10 and let us be judicious about how we use them. And I know there's a debate in the education world within our district and homes and families. Is a day of iLearn at home equivalent to the seat at Barren County High School or any other Barren County school in our district? And that's a tough debate to have.
Right.
But I will say this, because of the situation, because of us having this in place, I feel really good about the quality of the things that our young people are being asked to do. I know it's a challenge for our staff to continue to operate from distance locations and communicating with their students on a daily basis. But our professionals are working hard to make sure that learning continues, even when kids aren't in a seat in the classroom. And I'll venture to say, probably a year or two from now, this whole distance learning, this opportunity to continue instruction at home or some other location, it'll probably change the face of public education. We know it has at the college and university level, and lo and behold, now we're doing it in high school and elementary.
Right. And also, you guys, I saw where basically you guys implemented your meal program. I think usually it's during the summer, right, that you guys have a meal program during the summer, load up some buses, deliver meals.
It is. James, that's something that has been a fantastic addition to the Barren County School District for our families and our community to continue to meet needs, whether that's meals or additional print materials for students to be engaged in reading and developing the love for reading. We started with one bus. Cheyenne Fant and her team worked out routes in our community to offer one bus, and it was wildly successful. Our community embraced it. Funds were pooled together from community members that said, "Hey, let's expand this." We went to two buses last year. It's a phenomenal program. So we really had a model that where we prepare meals with our staff, put them on a bus, and deliver them at different locations. And then last Wednesday night, last Thursday, we said we've got kids that need to be fed when they're not in school. We know this. We do have a high level of poverty in Barren County, and that is a scientific fact. So we said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run all of our buses just like we're having school, and we're going to take the meals to the home, basically. And people looked around the room at each other and said, is this possible? And we said, what we're going to do is we're going to make what seems impossible possible for the children of our school district. And, Glasgow Independent, Caverna, I don't know of a school district in Kentucky that's not doing this, but we already had experience with it, with the summer program. So we hit the ground running, and every bus, we delivered to the door 1,800 meals today. Breakfast and lunch was put together as one package. It's two plates, basically, in a sack. And I'll be scarred for life at what I saw today. I had the privilege of going with the team and running a route, and there are families that depend on us, and they depend on that substance that we can provide for them, and we're just honored and glad to do it. And this is something that we're proud of, and at the same time, it's very challenging. We've met this afternoon with our principals in a Google chat. We didn't have them all come to the room together, but they and our district leaders meet at 2 o'clock in the afternoons. That's the meeting time now, and then we refine our process. We identify people we missed. We've got a hotline that people can call in if they weren't on the route today, and we also delivered 240 meals that weren't on the route somewhere. Not everybody rides the bus. And but there is a number. There is a way for them to call in, and what I would encourage any listeners to do, James and John, is look at the Barren County School District website. We update that at 4 p.m. each day with any changes, any new information regarding our I Learn at Home program or our food nutrition services program.
What's the district's website address?
It's Barren County Schools, Barren County K12.kyschools.us.
Gotcha. Well, and what the number if they needed to call in? Do you have that handy?
We have bought a track phone, and it's on the district website. And the reason was we wanted one number where everything came in and was coordinated. So that track phone number is located on the Barren County Schools district website. You cannot miss it.
Well, what I plan on doing then is putting that info in the notes for this show, so when people go to the podcast of it or on iTunes where they can get it, that info should be linked in there if they need to get to it. And then also when I put it up on the 104thescore.com website, I'm going to try to get those links in there. If you happen to see it and I forgot to do that, just text me and let me know, Bo.
Well, we can do that.
But, I plan on getting that done for you. Well, I want to thank you for coming in and talking to us. I just wanted to have the opportunity for you to kind of walk through some of the decision-making process for the school district outside necessarily realm of sports. It did end up affecting sports as well, but I mean, all that started at one level above where the sports fans are and that kind of thing. So I appreciate you coming in and talking to us, Bo.
Appreciate it. Ask everyone to be in prayer about how we move forward and navigate these issues, and we're going to make it through together. We can do it. This community's strong, and I have no doubt that we're going to lock arms and we're going to face this, and we're going to get through the other side.
Yep. From your ears to everyone else's. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back with Craig Cassady.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, we're back. We have Craig Cassady in here. Craig is the athletic director for the Glasgow School District, Glasgow High School, but, I mean, he kind of serves as the guy in charge of all athletics across the school district, just because I'm sure you get all the phone calls all the time anyway. So I want to thank you for joining us to talk about, with Bo in here, we've kind of focused on what some of the school district decisions were in terms of canceling school and that kind of stuff. With you, Craig, I want to talk to you about some of what happened in terms of, you know, when the athletics decisions were made, because I'm sure you were probably in the room with some of the conversations in terms of the spring sports. And if you know, I mean, you know, what you know about going forward, if there's any news that you can impart with us. So let's just start out Wednesday, between Wednesday of last week and Thursday. Basically, the world changed. We played the first round of the girls' state tournament on Wednesday, played the first game on Thursday, and then everything was gone at that point in time in terms of canceled or postponed. And then I think later Thursday or Friday, they decided they were going to postpone the start of the spring sports season. It was supposed to start today. I think we were going to have a couple of games, as a matter of fact, today, and that's not the case, at least for the next 3 weeks.
It's an extended dead period.
Yeah, it's an extended dead period. And also, from the athletic standpoint, I kind of want you to explain to us what they meant by an extended dead period. So let's start out Wednesday of last week into Thursday. What kind of information did you gain that was involved in the decision to postpone the spring sports season?
Well, as of Wednesday of last week, we didn't hear any information about canceling spring sports or anything like that.
Yeah.
But as the situation, I guess, worsened, on Thursday I made a call to KSAA just to speak with the spokesperson. And basically at that time, that Thursday morning, they had made a decision on canceling anything at all, and basically told me to keep my ears, open to whatever information that was coming across via email or Twitter or other social media accounts. So at that time, I wanted to kind of be proactive to find out what some of the 15th district teams, some of the other 4th region teams were going to be doing as far as spring sports. And, what were they going to do if, school, did shut down? Were they going to close all operations for spring sports? Mm-hmm. And pretty much it was a consensus that they were going to, shut spring sports down. And then it was later announced, I guess on Friday maybe, that they were going to cancel the Sweet 16 or postpone it at that time for an amount of time. And then later the commissioner came out and said that we were going to have the dead period through April the 12th.
Yeah. Now, the dead period during the summer is like no communication with athletes. It's a hard dead period. This is a little bit different. There is the ability to communicate. It's just you can't have organized practices or games and that kind of thing. Is that right?
Right.
Can't use any school facilities at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That starts on June the 25th, and that runs through July the 9th in the summertime. And basically, the email from the commissioner of KSAA says, basically we're doing the same thing. No organized practices, no open gyms, no weight training, no communication whatsoever with the kids until this thing gets better.
Mm-hmm. Now, technically speaking, the girls and boys state tournaments canceled; they're postponed, right?
That's correct. And an email I got today from Commissioner Tackett said that he hopes later on to shed a positive light on the Sweet 16 for both boys and girls. They're, keeping their fingers crossed, basically, in the email that I read. But at the same time, the Kitchens AA offices have closed. I don't know if you've heard that or not, but they're going to work remotely from their homes.
Right.
So I think they're going to be closed through March the 30th.
Yeah. So, have they given you any indication of how they would handle a return, or did they just not? They've not done that yet.
No, Kitchens AA is not saying anything right now. However, I've been in communication with Warren Cunningham, with Barren, John Pettit over at Monroe, and Kerry Harwood in the 15th District at Allen County, and there's some questions that we all have. When are we going to get to resume? For district play, are we going to do a blind draw? Are we going to play one game? Because it's going to shorten our season quite a bit.
Yeah.
Going into the April 12th date. So we really don't know exactly what we're going to do. And with baseball and baseball particularly, of course, John can speak because he's a baseball guy. You really don't want to come out and throw your pictures on the very first day that you're able to return, or any baseball player for that matter, because they're not acclimated to the sport, because they've not been in contact with the coaches, no workouts, no training, no nothing. So it's crazy. It's going to push us back quite a bit, especially with baseball and softball.
Mm-hmm. So I imagine then, even if you guys could play a game on April 13th, there may have to be a window of time to have some practices and that kind of thing, maybe even before you could play your first game, just for safety purposes for the players. Is that, you imagine that's the case?
Right. Just like I said, just for safety purposes, just so they could be acclimated to their sport. Mm-hmm. You want to give them a little time for that.
Yeah.
Now, spring football's been canceled.
Yeah, spring football's been canceled. Right. For you, just a perspective of coach and former player, I mean, have you ever been through a moment like this?
Never. I don't think anybody has.
Yeah.
And as an athletic director, of course, John, he has some athletic directing duties as well. I mean, the athletic director is constantly working 7 days a week and answering emails, phone calls, texts, and now you're just kind of at a standstill. It's not doing anything at all until we see what's going on. I mean, there's some things that you can obviously do as far as paperwork and some of the things that's going on at school, but I've never in 8 years of doing this, I've never experienced anything like this. And as a player and a coach, I've never been through anything like this, except for 9/11. Back when I was coaching with Billy over at Barren.
But that was kind of temporary.
That wasn't
like anything like this,
right?
Yeah.
It was just like a 4 or 5 day deal.
Yeah.
But
the unknown is the uncertainty is what's. I think it's part of the anxieties that people are facing in general. But and with athletics, the uncertainty. I think Major League Baseball just decided. Did they push their season back another month today? Is that what I
believe so? 1st of June.
1st of June. That's correct. And so.
And just like John said, the uncertainty, it saddens me for not only the senior athletes at Glasgow High School, but senior athletes across the state that, they're going to have their, season limited or
none.
Or perhaps canceled altogether. And, you hate that. You really do. And I know some people raise questions, and I don't, as far as, I don't know about NCAA, but I know like Division II, they talked about maybe letting their seniors come back for another year.
They do that in Division I too.
Yeah, for baseball and softball,
spring
sports.
They've
not addressed the basketball yet.
Right, and I don't know, high school seniors that graduate, I don't think that there would be any allowance whatsoever for them to come back and do that. I don't know, it's all up in the air.
Well, and I think that's one of the great questions about the postponement of the boys and girls state basketball tournaments is the logistics of trying to work out. If you can't do anything until June or even May for that matter, I mean, you've got kids that are probably already more or less moved on at that point because you've got to figure out how to handle what they're preparing for, especially if they're going to go play in college.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. I mean, they may make the choice of, I appreciate the opportunity, but I've got to do something else in my life.
Right.
And I just don't know how the logistics of that gets worked out. I mean, there's no clean way to accomplish it from what I've seen.
Right, and I think it all starts with the KHSAA. They're going to have to make a decision on, what's best for the student athletes and the coaches, and administrators, and everybody else.
Yeah, and so I'm sure you get phone calls and text messages from people who are asking, well, what are they going to do? And I mean, I'm sure you'd like to have an answer for them.
Oh yeah, I would like to. But for example, I got a text over the weekend. Can we still have a college signing for an athlete during this time? There's, you can't do it. I mean, everything's put on hold. Everything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really think about that, but yeah, those are off base as well, so to speak. Because
I mean, with the new CDC guidelines, it was less than 50 people.
Yeah.
Now it's down to 10.
Is that what they put out this afternoon?
I believe that's what was that said at the press conference.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's. I mean,
things are changing.
Yeah.
Daily. I mean, not daily, hourly.
Hourly.
I mean, it's changing constantly. What with the recommendations and so forth. So it's. Time we get done with this show would be something else that's probably changed. So, people just need to hang in there. That's all we can do right now.
Yeah.
And it's it's sad, but we'll get through it.
Well, and I know that for the most part, Craig and Bo Matthews, that you guys have thankless jobs. I mean, a lot of times. I mean, you only catch the what about me-ism stuff, and don't get a whole lot of people who say thank you. But I want to thank you for handling this circumstance and so many others. I mean, you've always done a really good job, in my opinion, Craig.
Thank you.
And I know this is not easy for you either in any way, because I had a communication with a mother who was upset about the cancellation of the basketball and that kind of stuff. Her child was a senior, and I told her, I said, I can't imagine being in your shoes. My son, he played sports in high school. He had a senior year. I can't imagine missing that. And you can feel their pain as well. I mean, you have children. I mean, your daughter.
Right.
Does she still play softball?
She does.
And so, I mean, you've got a daughter who's missing the opportunity to play right now.
I got a niece in Lexington who's a really good player, junior.
Right.
Yeah.
And you expect, you hate it for all kids, but especially when it's coming from like the parents you said, and it's your own child, it makes things even worse.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so I mean, it's I get the parents and the fans who are upset about these decisions, but from everything I've read and talking to you and talking to Bo Matthews, I don't see where there are many choices other than the decisions that have been made.
I think it's fair. Mm-hmm. When the professionals in the colleges aren't playing, it's really it's really hard to justify
exactly.
High school, little league, and whatever.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Very difficult to go out on that limb when you got the pros and all the money that's involved in professional and college. It's almost impossible, actually.
Yeah, you could be right standing out there in that limb by yourself, but you could be the one that the limb just breaks under.
That's
as well,
correct.
And you eat the ground on your way down.
Right.
Anything else you can think of related to the, information related to the athletics or anything of that nature, Craig?
No, I would just say, the people that are concerned, for example, Bo Matthews is in here. I'm sure he's talking about the school, the process with the school, when's it going to resume. For Glasgow independent schools, and I'm sure for Barren County, I guess you just need to look at their website for more information if you have questions. Mm-hmm. As far as athletics goes, we have to wait from the top, and that top being the KHSAA, and we'll find out from them. Is it going to be, a longer situation than April the 12th? We just have to wait and see what they say, and they're going to do what's in the best interest of our student athletes.
Yeah, and the Glasgow School District website is, do you know that web address?
You just go to Glasgow Independent Schools,
okay.
And you should be able to find all the information on their website.
All right. Well, Craig, I want to thank you for joining us, for coming in here and talking to us about this. It's a sports show, right. And so there's not a whole lot of sports to talk about, although there were a couple of pieces of news over the weekend for us to chat about coming up. But so one of the things we want to try to do is keep people at least informed with the platform that we have here. So I want to thank you and Bo Matthews, as I said, for coming in. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, we're going to shift our focus solely to sports for the next 18 minutes or so. We're going to start out with this news that Rick Petino is coming back to college basketball. The former Louisville and former Kentucky coach will be going to his home state, right, to coach Iona. I don't know why. I mean, I just figured if he was coming back to college basketball, it was not going to be someplace like Iona. I just figured somebody would bite the bullet and give him a shot at one of the bigger, more blue-chip kind of universities.
Yeah, with Rick, I'm happy for him, and I've always been a Rick Petino fan, whether he was at UK, whether he was at Louisville or whatever. I've always been a big fan of him, and what's ironic about all this stuff, what's ironic about Rick is he's the only one that's really paid the price.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, of all the FBI investigations, of all the scandals that, Arizona did not fire their coach, and there were some strong implications with them. LSU did not fire, and there was some strong evidence of actually a phone conversation with the head coach, and didn't get rid of him.
His name Brady.
Yeah, and Auburn, they lost an assistant to that, and. Kansas still has Bill Self, and all those were, at least assistants and things like that were implicated. And the only one that took the fall was Rick. Now, you could argue that Rick also had the scandal with the strippers too, but there was no evidence that he was involved anyway. So.
They didn't have him on the phone talking to.
No, they did not. Actually, they did not. There's no concrete evidence against him, and he went overseas and coached, I think, in Greece for a while, and so he's back home. He's a New Yorker. Iona, for those who don't know, is in New York. It's a small Catholic school.
Is it New Rochelle, New York? Is that where it is?
I'm not for sure, but they've had success in the NCAA tournament. Several years ago, Jeff Rulin was. I remember he had 42 points in the NCAA tournament game, and he was from Iona. I think Rick could do real well. I really do. He's 67 years old, but he still has incredible energy, and that's his roots. And he'll be able to. He doesn't have to have great players to win.
No,
but he will. I think he'll do quite well, and I'm actually happy for him and happy for college basketball. If nobody else paid the price, I don't understand why he's the only one that took the fall.
Well, I mean, as we've discussed on this show before, Louisville seems to be the only university that said, you know what, we got a clean house.
That's
but
correct.
That may have, it turns out that had probably less to do with Rick Petino per se and more to do with just the nature of the athletic program at that period of time that they made that decision. And not just them, but, I mean, their university president and some of their board members.
Yeah, and I could also say they cooperated with NCAA. And that doesn't seem to always work for a school.
As a matter of fact, I would say that does not work in the school's favor at all.
It doesn't seem like it. That's correct.
I mean, as a matter of fact, and hopefully, I just hope this changes, but it seems like the best approach is the LSU approach, which was basically get off my lawn.
And the North Carolina approach.
Yeah, just go, whatever, get off my lawn, and we're, you ain't got nothing on us. Our coach said he didn't do it. That's not his voice on the recording. But whatever. Yeah, that seems to be, if you don't want to get rid of your coach, that seems to be the approach to take. But like I said, I think Louisville was dealing with things outside of just the circumstance around Rick Petino. I think Louisville was trying to. There are people associated with the University of Louisville who decided they did not like the perception of the university.
That's true,
and they decided to clean house
and got rid of him and Tom Jurek, the athletic director,
and Petrino. I mean, they just basically just cleaned out everybody.
Yep,
and I think that has worked out for them now. 2 years down the road,
I agree with that.
So, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the end results this year of these things because we're not going to have an NCAA tournament. We didn't have an ACC tournament. We don't have an SEC tournament. So it looked like the results were going to be that it panned out for Louisville.
I do think they're in a better spot than they were a couple years ago.
Yeah,
there's no question. Football and basketball. I think they got solid coaches. I think they're on a better. I think the image is better.
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't mean that Rick Petino should never work again.
No, probably not.
And in my opinion, and so I'm happy for him.
One thing I think about, I didn't look to see what conference Iona's in, but one thing I thought about was the other coaches in that conference with Iona have to look around and say to themselves, "Great,
Yeah.
we got to deal with this."
Other than
Meaning
it will
he's going to cause
Yeah.
him problems.
Well, but it will bring publicity to a conference. They're going to get national coverage because Iona is going to be on TV.
Oh yeah, that's right. And look, I would say that for a few years there with Rick Petino at Louisville, in terms of Louisville preseason rankings, expectations, those were largely based on the fact that Rick Petino was coach, not necessarily the talent that was on the floor.
Agreed.
And we saw these last couple of years, they probably didn't get as much respect as they deserved in the preseason rankings. Now, this year they caught up to it with their play on the floor, but those first couple of years after he was gone, people were like, it's over with at Louisville. They really didn't get the respect they probably deserved because they still had talent.
And people forget that Louisville was big time before Rick got there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he didn't take the job just because.
No, I mean, Louisville wasn't some run-of-the-mill school. I mean, they've had national champions and
Right.
Denny Crum, pretty good, to
Yep.
say the least. So, I mean, he's unquestionably a great coach.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. I hated to see him not coaching college basketball because I enjoy watching his teams play for the most part. I mean,
I agree.
I've always thought going back to, was it Providence or whatever?
Started Providence.
You
Well,
know-
he started Boston, but yeah, Providence was where he became the big hit.
Yeah.
Boston University, I think, is where he was first.
He's always a coach. People think of him as a coach that coaches a certain style, but if you watch him through the years,
He's evolved.
yeah, he coaches to his players, and he's a rare coach in that way. I mean, obviously he recruits certain kinds of players, and probably wants to try to accomplish certain kinds of things. But I've always been,
Well, his teams always played hard.
yeah, that's the other thing.
And they were always disciplined, played hard. And up until this last scandal, there was never, ever any NCAA problems at all.
Yeah,
In terms of recruiting and things like that.
I mean, as a matter of fact, he resurrected Kentucky from a dark spot.
That's exactly
in
right.
the history of that program.
Yes.
So, which always kind of made me amused at the Kentucky fans hating on him so much, because I mean, basically, Kentucky was dead in the water when he got there.
He did a remarkable job.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite team of all time was of any college basketball team was the senior year of Richie Farmer, John Pelfrey, Mashburn,
Yeah,
Feldhouse. Took a team with limited talent, and that was the team that got beat by Duke and on the Christian Laettner shot.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, so through the years, like I said, I was amused at Kentucky fans being so negative toward him. I mean,
Because he went to Louisville.
yeah, well, of course,
Yes.
But I mean, he did stop at the Boston
He
Celtics
did.
beforehand.
That's exactly right. But
that didn't work out
Didn't.
as well. Maybe because he drafted too many of his own players.
and he didn't get the top. He didn't get Tim Duncan.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look. There's.
So I remember that stuff.
Yeah. See, there is a. You want to talk about a moment in history? I remember watching that draft, thinking to myself. Now, I grew up a Lakers fan, not a Celtics fan, but I really wanted the Celtics to get Tim Duncan because I thought he was like the most perfect Celtic.
Yep.
And they did not get the ball, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, the Celtics are cursed. They were too good for too long. They're being repaid by the basketball gods for all their success in the 60s and whatnot. And so they didn't get Tim Duncan, plus the other things that had happened, with Lynn Bias.
And his famous line, Larry Bird and Kevin McHale are not walking through that door.
Yeah, that's right. He's got some good quotable moments in the world. Well, this is the Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL free agency.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, there is, beyond the Rick Petino news, there is some actual sports going on where
Thank
people
goodness.
don't have to. Yeah, thank goodness.
I'm glad, to be honest with you. I'm happy for the NFL having a little free agent because I do think, just from a mental health perspective, I do think there needs to be some positive news, some things that people can, people like to talk about football, and I'm kind of glad that the NFL decided to do that, to be honest with you, because there needs to be some sliver, of light in a kind of a dark time right now.
Yeah. And the thing about the NFL free agency that is different is that it doesn't really require people to get together.
I agree. I think that's why I like doing it. And they're going to still have the draft.
Yeah.
They've announced that. They're just not going to have it in front of all the people.
Yeah.
So the draft is still, people like to just look forward to things. Mm-hmm. And right now it's hard to see because everything is suspended or canceled. It's kind of hard to see, well, is there anything coming up next? Well, the NFL draft is still going to be held in April. It's going to be on TV. And I like that event.
Well,
and I'm happy for that.
The thing about the draft, too, is they've made it a made-for-TV event, and it can still be a made-for-TV event without all the people in the Eagles uniforms yelling that they drafted Donovan McNabb.
That's correct.
Or whatever. So, I mean, you can still draft people without the need for violating the CDC.
And I think we need some of that. I do. I worry about the how people can. It's depressing at times to see all this take place, and we're the strongest country in the world. We've endured everything, and we'll endure this, but it's going to be some hardships. But I do think people need to be kind of reassured and see some good things. And good thing, Tannehill signs with he signs for $100 million with Tennessee. The bad thing is that means Tom Brady's not coming to Tennessee.
Yeah, well, look, I think Tom Brady going anywhere other than New England has been a hoax this whole time.
Well, you got to do something with the running back.
Well, that is true, and Tannehill. If there's a guy who has earned his opportunity to play and be the starting quarterback for the Titans, it's him.
$63 million guaranteed. That's the number.
Yeah,
it's $63 million. The contract's worth a lot more than that, but guaranteed money is $63.
Yeah, and that's what's key in the NFL.
And I tell you one thing: I don't know about these free agents, but in today's time with the stock market and everything going crazy, if somebody offers me serious money, I'm not holding out for a few more million. I mean, seriously, I'm taking it.
Yeah, sticking it in the mason jar.
Yeah, yes. That's exactly right. I'm taking it right now.
Well, and also the other thing that happened today was what is DeAndre
Hopkins of the Texans got traded to Arizona, which is a shocking move. He's probably the best receiver in football.
Yeah, I mean that's what there was a person who had a meme about Watson on Twitter, and it was like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, because he had to be the only person who could really throw to.
But they can't pay Watson and him.
Well, and see, that's the trick. I mean,
when you pay your quarterback, in a hard cap league, when your quarterback's going to get $35-40 million, that means your best receiver's not going to get what he wants.
You better hope your draft class is good.
That's exactly right.
And that, the Cowboys find themselves in the same circumstance with Dak Prescott because I read that basically Amari Cooper's gone. They're not going to be able to.
Well, they don't know, but he's free to negotiate because they put the tag, I guess you could say, on Dak.
Yeah, the franchise tag.
He has to suffer through $33 million this year.
Oh, that's painful. Yeah, but it does put them in a position whether it comes to the hard cap.
They may lose Cooper.
Yeah, because truthfully, the most important thing for the Cowboys is their offensive line.
Yes.
I mean,
how about Cooper to the Patriots? Would they get Tom Brady back?
I guarantee they'd get Tom Brady back.
There you go.
I wonder who made the call, already to Tom said, here are the receivers that we can get. Yeah. Which ones will be acceptable?
Well, Tom's playing hardball right with New England. I don't think he feels the love there.
What an ironic situation. But anyway, because I kind of believe Bill Belichick is like, that's fine, we can move on without him. And Robert Kraft is like, oh no, we've got to keep him. I imagine that's got to be the conversation that's going on because we've probably reached that point where both Tom Brady and Bill Belichick kind of feel like they want to prove something without each other.
Yes, and New England always has a plan.
Yeah.
I'll say that. They always have a plan.
Yeah, but I still think that, whenever I saw the little stunt for the commercial for the Super Bowl, I decided Tom Brady's not going anywhere. He's enjoying this moment.
I agree that. He's being courted all over again.
Yeah. And which is, in fact, something he's never really gone through because he was a 6th-round pick.
That's correct.
I mean, he was never courted. He wasn't courted to go to Michigan and play in college. I mean, this is probably the only moment in his entire career where people have said, we've got to figure out a way to hold on to him. I mean, because he's taken less money than he had to stay with the Patriot all these years.
And that's why they won 6 championships, too, probably.
Very true. They can put that money elsewhere.
That's right.
Well, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week, I promise.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.